The galaxy was burning. Stars that once shined with peace now echoed with the noise of war. Empires fought each other for control, and every planet became a battlefield. In this chaos, a rumor spread. A rumor about a tiny army. Alien generals laughed when they heard it. What? A small planet sends soldiers? From Earth? They must be like insects. Small, weak, and easy to crush. Around the great war table of the Zorath Empire, the commanders mocked. Their claws scratched the metal surface as they laughed. One of them, a tall creature with 4 burning eyes, leaned forward and sneered. They call it an army. It must be a joke. Look at their planet, Earth. A small world. Not even advanced. What can these little creatures do? We could crush them with a single squad. The others agreed. No one took the rumor seriously. But the laughter did not last long. Reports began to arrive. A small human fleet had engaged a pirate armada on the edge of space. Everyone expected the humans to be destroyed in minutes. Instead, the pirate ships were torn apart with shocking speed. Another report came. A larger alien faction tried to invade a human colony. Thousands of soldiers went in. Very few came out. The humans fought like something the galaxy had never seen. The commanders frowned. Was this true? Could the tiny army really be so dangerous? The Zorath High General dismissed it. No. Lies. Exaggerations. Small races always try to appear bigger than they are. Do not be fooled. Yet inside the Empire, fear quietly spread. Soldiers whispered in the barracks. Traders spoke in the markets. Everyone repeated the same words. The tiny army of Earth, they are not like others. On a faraway moon, deep inside a fortress, the enemy prepared for war. 1,000 alien officers gathered, studying maps and screens. They were planning their next attack. At the center of the table was a glowing image, Earth. One officer slammed his hand on the screen. This is their home. Weak. Soft. They have oceans and forests. No real defenses. We will strike them and show the galaxy that the tiny army is nothing but a myth. The room filled with cheers. They all agreed. But one old officer stayed silent. His face was pale. His eyes remembered something. Years ago, he had seen humans fight. He had seen their soldiers on a distant battlefield. He whispered to himself, almost in fear. They are not tiny. No one listened to him. Far away, on Earth itself, the human soldiers prepared. They were not the largest species in the galaxy. They were not the strongest. Their bodies were small compared to giant aliens. Their weapons looked simple. Their fleets looked light. But they had something else. Something the galaxy did not understand. Discipline, unity, and an unbreakable will. The narrator's voice grew darker. The aliens thought of war as glory. They fought for pride, for honor, for empire. But the humans fought for survival. They fought for each other. And when humans fought for survival, they became unstoppable. The Zorath Empire laughed once more. They sent spies to watch the humans. The spies returned with strange reports. They spoke of drills, of training, of soldiers who never gave up even when exhausted. One spy said, "I saw a human soldier run for hours without food, without rest. I saw another carry his wounded brother across the battlefield. These creatures, they do not leave anyone behind." The generals still mocked. So what? They are soft. They bleed. They die. No matter their training, they are still tiny. But deep inside, the generals felt something cold. A shadow of doubt. Then came the first real battle. The Zorath fleet spotted small human ships near a border planet. The aliens laughed. Look at them. Fragile ships. So small. This will be easy. The human ships stayed silent. They moved slowly, almost too calmly. The aliens rushed forward, eager to crush them. And then, the trap closed. Human ships moved with precision, like a blade. They struck from the shadows, firing in perfect rhythm. Alien ships exploded one by one. In minutes, the battlefield changed. The mighty Zorath fleet was burning, and the tiny ships still stood. The laughter ended. Back in the War Council, silence ruled the chamber. No one dared to mock now. The High General stared at the reports, his claws trembling. The humans had won. Not by numbers. Not by size. But by something else. The galaxy began to whisper louder. The tiny army is not tiny at all. The old officer, the one who had warned them, closed his eyes. He remembered again the look in human eyes, the fire, the determination, the promise that they would never stop. And he whispered, almost like a prophecy, "You may laugh at them now, but soon you will fear them." The galaxy had laughed at the humans. But after the first reports of battle victories, the laughter grew weaker. Still, many alien leaders believed it was luck, or maybe lies. The Zorath Empire decided to prove the truth with their own eyes. A fleet was sent. Not the largest, but strong enough to destroy a young species. Dozens of warships, filled with experienced soldiers, jumped across space toward the human border. They expected an easy victory. The Zorath commander stood on the bridge of his flagship. His tall body towered above the crew. His voice was filled with pride. "Today," he shouted, "we will show the galaxy that humans are nothing but weak animals. Their tiny army will break before our strength." The soldiers cheered. The fleet moved with confidence. And then they saw them. The first human ships appeared on the edge of the scanners. Small, light, almost fragile compared to the massive alien warships. The Zorath commander smirked. "Look at them. Thin metal shells. Barely warships. Pathetic." The aliens laughed. They imagined victory was already in their claws. But something was strange. The human ships did not run. They did not fire wildly. They moved, calmly, slowly, in perfect formation. The alien commander frowned. "Why do they not fear us?" The fleets drew closer. The Zorath prepared their weapons. Sparks of energy filled the sky. The first shot was fired by the aliens, a great beam of burning plasma. It tore across space and smashed into a human vessel. The aliens roared with triumph. One shot. One kill. But when the smoke cleared, the ship was still moving. Damaged, yes, but not destroyed. And more human ships came forward to protect it, covering the wounded vessel like wolves shielding one of their own. Then the humans struck back. Their ships did not fire all at once. Instead, they fired in rhythm, one after another, like the beat of a war drum. The shots landed on the same target, each blow hitting the same weak point. The first alien ship exploded. The Zorath commander froze. His eyes widened. How did they know where to strike? Another alien ship fell. Then another. The humans were not stronger, not bigger, but they were precise. They fought with strategy, with unity, with discipline. Inside the human ships, soldiers moved like clockwork. Every order was followed instantly. Every crew member trusted the other. They were not fighting for pride. They were fighting to live. The galaxy had never seen war like this. The Zorath tried to push forward with brute strength. "Charge! Crush them!" the commander shouted. His warships surged, firing wildly, trying to break the human line. But the humans did not panic. They adapted. They spread out, then closed in again, trapping the alien ships from both sides. The battlefield became a storm of fire. Explosions lit the black sky. Alien ships screamed as they broke apart. And through it all, the humans stayed calm. A survivor from the alien side later described it in fear. They moved like they had one mind. Small ships, small soldiers, but their unity made them terrifying. They fought as if death meant nothing. Hours passed. The battle raged on. But slowly, surely, the Zorath fleet grew smaller. Their great warships, once symbols of pride, burned one by one. The commander's pride turned to panic. He slammed his claws on the control panel. "This cannot be. They are weak. They are tiny. They cannot." His words ended in silence. A human torpedo struck his flagship. The great vessel broke apart in a storm of fire. The battle was over. Only a few alien ships escaped. They fled into the void, carrying with them a story that would spread across the stars. The story of the humans. The story of the tiny army that was not tiny at all. When the survivors returned, they stood before the High Council of the Zorath Empire. Their voices trembled. They are not what we thought. Their ships may be small, but they fight like demons. They never stop. They never break. Even when outnumbered, they find a way to win. The council was silent. The laughter was gone. But even then, some leaders still refused to believe. They said the battle was luck, nothing more. Yet in the shadows, whispers grew. The galaxy was beginning to fear the humans. The tiny army had shown its teeth, and the taste of fear was spreading fast. The Zorath Empire had expected an easy victory. Instead, their proud fleet returned broken and burning. Whispers spread through the empire like fire in dry grass. The humans defeated them, the tiny army, it is real. At first, the commanders denied it. It was bad luck. Poor planning. Nothing more. But the soldiers who had survived told a different story. They spoke of humans who fought with no fear. They spoke of ships that moved like hunters, striking weak points again and again. They spoke of an army that was small in number but strong in spirit. And slowly, fear began to grow. In the barracks of alien soldiers, the jokes about humans stopped. No one laughed anymore. Instead, they whispered in low voices. What if we must face them next? What if the tiny army comes for us? Some even refused to fight. They requested transfers away from the human front. For the first time in generations, the mighty Zorath warriors felt doubt. In the high council chambers, the leaders argued. One slammed his fist on the table. Ridiculous! They are weak creatures from a small planet. We will crush them with numbers. Another leader, older and wiser, shook his head slowly. You do not understand. They are not like us. Their strength is not size, not power. It is something else. Something dangerous. The others mocked him, just as they had mocked the humans. But inside, even the proudest commander felt a shadow of unease. On other worlds, fear grew faster. Merchants who had seen the battles told stories in crowded markets. They are small, yes. But they fight as one. I saw with my own eyes how they destroyed ships 3 times their size. Children of alien races whispered the words before sleep. The tiny army, the humans are coming. Meanwhile, the humans did not rest. They knew the enemy would return, stronger and angrier than before. So they prepared. On Earth and on their colonies, soldiers trained harder than ever. Day and night, they drilled. They learned to adapt, to fight in any terrain, any environment. Rain, snow, desert, forest, even the vacuum of space, humans practiced until their bodies broke, then healed and grew stronger. Where other armies trained for pride, humans trained for survival. Inside the human fleet, commanders studied alien tactics. They learned every weakness, every habit, every flaw. And slowly, the humans began to change the war. For the first time, the galaxy faced an enemy that did not fight like them. Aliens fought for honor, for empire, for riches. But humans fought for something more powerful. They fought for each other. On a border world, a new battle began. The Zorath returned, this time with double the number of ships. They wanted revenge. The sky filled with fire as the fleets clashed. At first, the aliens pushed hard, their numbers overwhelming. But the humans did not break. On the ground, human soldiers fought side by side. When one fell, another carried him to safety. When supplies ran out, they shared what little they had. They refused to leave anyone behind. The aliens were stunned. They had never seen such loyalty. To them, soldiers were tools, used and thrown away. But humans treated each soldier as family. A captured alien officer later admitted in horror. They fight like they are already dead. They do not fear pain. They do not fear loss. They fight as if the blood of one man belongs to all. The Zorath won small victories, but they paid in rivers of blood. Every step forward cost them ships, soldiers, and morale. And in every battle, the humans learned, adapted, and grew stronger. The fear spread wider. Whispers turned into warnings. Warnings turned into belief. Across the galaxy, alien races who once mocked the humans began to respect them. They spoke the words with awe. The tiny army is the deadliest army. Back in the Zorath capital, the High General sat alone in his chamber. For the first time, his claws trembled. He thought of the reports, of the losses, of the strange human spirit. They are small, he whispered, but their will is giant. The fear had taken root, even in him. The war was no longer a secret. Every empire in the galaxy now knew the truth: the humans were not weak. The so-called tiny army had blooded the Zorath Empire again and again. But the Zorath were proud. They could not accept defeat. So they gathered their greatest force yet. A massive fleet. A ground army larger than anything the humans had ever faced. This time, the High General declared, we will not just defeat them. We will erase them. We will crush their spirit until no one dares speak of humans again. The galaxy watched in silence. Everyone wondered, could humans stand against such numbers? The invasion began. The Zorath fleet swept into human territory like a storm. Hundreds of warships filled the stars. On the ground, thousands of alien soldiers landed on a human colony world. At first, it looked hopeless. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, surrounded on all sides. The alien commanders laughed once more. See, this is their end. The tiny army cannot fight forever. But they were wrong. On the battlefield, the humans did not panic. They did not scatter. Instead, they adapted. In the forests, small squads set traps, turning the land itself into a weapon. In the cities, snipers hid in the ruins, striking without warning. On the mountains, human soldiers used the high ground to rain fire on the enemy. Everywhere the Zorath moved, humans were waiting. Every step forward cost blood. The alien soldiers grew frustrated. They are everywhere, one shouted. They attack from shadows, then vanish. But this was only the beginning. At night, the humans struck harder. They moved silently, crawling through mud and darkness. They cut supply lines, destroyed fuel depots, and vanished before the enemy could respond. The Zorath commander roared in anger. They are not warriors. They are ghosts. But the truth was clear. Humans had learned to turn weakness into strength. They could not win with size. They could not win with numbers. So they won with cunning. With unity. With the will to fight even when the odds were impossible. A captured alien soldier was asked what it felt like to face humans. His voice shook as he answered. They are small, yes. But they fight as if the ground itself belongs to them. They never stop. You kill one, and another takes his place. You think you are hunting them, but in truth, they are hunting you. The tide began to turn. Alien ships, once so confident, now feared human ambushes. Alien soldiers, once so proud, now feared the silent eyes watching them in the dark. The tiny army was breaking the will of a giant empire. On the colony world, the battle reached its peak. The Zorath gathered their remaining strength for one final assault. Thousands of alien troops charged, weapons blazing, determined to crush the last human defenders. In the center of the ruined city, a small group of human soldiers stood their ground. They were outnumbered 10-1. But they did not retreat. Their commander spoke calmly into the radio. Hold the line. No matter what happens, hold the line. And they did. The fighting was brutal. Smoke, fire, screams filled the air. Humans fought hand to hand when their ammunition ran out. They refused to fall back. The aliens pushed harder, but every time they thought the humans would break, the humans pushed back. 4 hours, the line held. Then, at the height of the battle, human reinforcements arrived. Dropships roared from the sky, soldiers poured out, and the tiny army struck with full fury. The Zorath were caught between two forces, trapped, surrounded, and finally crushed. The mighty invasion had failed. News of the battle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Zorath had thrown everything they had, and still, the humans stood tall. On alien worlds, whispers grew into shouts. The tiny army cannot be defeated. They are not prey. They are predators. Back on Earth, the human soldiers buried their dead, saluted their fallen, and prepared for the next fight. They did not see themselves as heroes. They were simply doing what humans always did, fighting for survival, for family, for each other. But across the stars, they were becoming something else. A legend. The galaxy had watched. The humans had survived. Against impossible odds, the so-called tiny army had stopped the Zorath invasion. But the war was not over. The Zorath Empire could not accept defeat. They wanted answers. They wanted to understand what made the humans so dangerous. So, in the middle of battle, one of their officers was captured. His name was Korath, a proud Zorath commander. He had mocked humans many times before. Tiny, he used to call them. Soft, fragile, laughable. Now, as a prisoner, he was forced to walk among the soldiers he had insulted. At first, he stared at them with disgust. They were small compared to his kind. Their bodies looked weak, their skin soft, their weapons simple. But then he began to notice details. He saw a human soldier limping, blood staining his uniform. Another soldier placed the wounded man's arm across his shoulders and carried him, step by step, refusing to leave him behind. He saw a group of humans sharing their last canteen of water, passing it carefully so each one had a sip, even though their throats were dry from battle. He saw young soldiers cleaning the weapons of older veterans, not because they were ordered, but because they respected them. These were things Korath had never seen in his own army. On his world, weakness was shame. The wounded were abandoned. The hungry were ignored. The old were forgotten. But here, among humans, weakness did not mean abandonment. It meant unity. For the first time, Korath felt confusion. Perhaps even admiration. That night, when the battlefields grew quiet, Korath sat in his cell, staring through the bars. He could still hear the humans outside. Not laughter. Not celebration. But voices. Calm, steady, determined. They spoke of family waiting for them back on Earth. They spoke of promises made to comrades who had fallen. They spoke of survival, not just for themselves, but for all of humanity. And Korath finally understood. The next morning, a human officer entered his cell. She was small compared to him, but her eyes were steady, sharp, and unafraid. Korath tried to sound strong. You fight well, for such tiny creatures. But why? Why do you not break? Why do you not fear death? The human officer looked at him and simply said, Because we fight for each other. We are never alone. The words struck him deeper than any weapon. Later, Korath was transported through the battlefield once more. He saw rows of human graves, each one marked with care. Soldiers stood in silence, saluting their fallen. In Zorath culture, the dead were forgotten quickly, buried without thought. But humans remembered. They honored. Korath whispered to himself. They are not tiny. Their bodies may be small, but their spirit is giant. Across the galaxy, other aliens were learning the same truth. Spies reported. Humans can live in heat, in cold, in desert, in ocean. Their worlds are harsh, but they survive. Merchants said. Humans adapt to anything. Where other species struggle, humans find a way. Soldiers confessed. They fight like demons. But not for empire, not for glory. They fight because they cannot imagine leaving each other behind. Slowly, the fear of humans changed into respect. No one laughed at the phrase tiny army anymore. Instead, they whispered it with awe. Back in his cell, Korath closed his eyes. He thought of the Zorath High Command, still planning their next war. He thought of the generals who would never understand this strange strength. And he realized something terrible. They will never stop underestimating you, he said quietly to the humans. And that will destroy us. For the first time in his life, Korath felt fear not of defeat, but of truth. The truth that a small, fragile-looking species had something greater than claws or fangs or giant ships. They had unity. They had resilience. They had fire in their souls. And no empire, no matter how strong, could take that away. The legend spread faster now. Stories of the revelation. Stories of the captured commander who admitted the truth. The galaxy now saw humans differently. Not as prey. Not as weak. But as something to fear. The tiny army had become giants. The war had changed. The Zorath Empire, once so proud, was broken and bleeding. They had thrown fleets, armies, and endless soldiers against the humans. And still, the tiny army stood. Across the galaxy, no one laughed at Earth anymore. The words tiny army now carried a different meaning. It meant danger. It meant courage. It meant death to those who underestimated them. In the shadow of defeat, alien leaders gathered. They argued in great halls, their voices echoing with anger and fear. "They are too dangerous," shouted one. "They must be destroyed before they grow stronger." Another shook his head. "Fool. We have tried. The more we fight them, the stronger they become. Every battle teaches them. Every loss hardens them." Silence filled the chamber. For the first time, empires that had ruled the stars for centuries admitted the truth. They were afraid. On Earth, life was different too. Families lit candles for the fallen. Children grew up hearing stories of bravery, of sacrifice, of soldiers who refused to surrender. The humans did not see themselves as conquerors. They only saw themselves as survivors. But to the galaxy, survival itself had become legend. In the barracks of alien soldiers, whispers turned into prayers. "Do not let us fight the humans," they said quietly. "They are not like us. They do not stop. They do not break." One soldier, shaking with fear, told his commander, "I would rather face 10 beasts of fire than a single human squad." The commander did not punish him, because he felt the same. Then came the final proof. A coalition of alien empires, desperate and united, launched one last great war against Earth. Never before had so many armies joined together. They believed that combined strength would finally crush humanity. But the humans met them head-on. The sky over a human colony became a storm of ships. Fire lit the black void as fleets clashed. On the ground, human soldiers dug trenches, set traps, and prepared for the final stand. The enemy came with endless numbers. But the humans did not falter. Every soldier stood firm. Every soldier remembered why they fought: family, comrades, survival. The battle lasted days. The ground shook, the skies burned. But when the smoke cleared, it was the humans who still stood. The coalition shattered. The empires fled. And the galaxy understood at last. The humans were not a tiny army. They were a storm in human shape. They were predators hidden in small bodies. They were the giants of war. The old Zorath officer, Korath, who had once been captured, watched the end with heavy eyes. He remembered his first words of mockery. He remembered calling them small, fragile, weak. And he whispered to himself, "We thought they were tiny. But in truth, it is we who are small before them." From that day forward, the legend spread. In stories, in songs, in whispers across space. The humans, the tiny army, the warriors who never gave up. They became a name spoken with fear and respect. On alien worlds, children asked their parents, "Are the humans real?" And the parents, with quiet voices, answered, "Yes, they are real. And they are watching." On battlefields, when armies faced the unknown, they asked a single question: "Are they humans?" Because if the answer was yes, many chose not to fight at all. And so the galaxy changed forever. The humans did not conquer planets. They did not demand empires. They simply fought to survive. But in surviving, they became something greater. They became the measure of courage, the symbol of unity, the legend of war. The narrator's voice grows heavy with finality. They called them the tiny army. They mocked them. They laughed at them. But when the fires of war ended, and the ashes settled, the galaxy knew the truth. The humans were never tiny. The humans were giants.